Welcome to our Thanksgiving podcast. This is beginning of fall. We're thinking about Thanksgiving. We're thinking about family. We're thinking about food. And I have a real treat coming to us here virtually. I'm here at our beautiful Sycamore Studios in Plain City, Ohio. But we have a very important guest to me. Not that all guests aren't important, but this young lady has shown me more about agriculture, food supply, chain of command of food. I know nothing about the food industry. And actually, as an interior designer, I'm not sure how much she knew or how much she learned on the fly, but boy, she learned on the fly very, very quickly. Emily Emmons is one of my favorite military spouses whom I've ever talked to, and I love all of them. And there are so many very strong spouses over there who have done things remarkable because of the situation that they've been placed into, primarily upon the return of the spouse or when the spouse is deployed. So she's got one of these great stories of a journey, and I can't wait till she tells us. She is kind of both between Hawaii and California. She flies over the Pacific at will. It's just an amazing connection that she has, bringing our, Asian Pacific veteran population together with our California population, and California being our largest veteran population. So without further hesitation, I want to introduce you to Elizabeth Dole Fellow, former interior designer, a great leader, founder, entrepreneur of Huola Farms in Hilo, Hawaii. And I'm probably mispronouncing all of these Hawaiian accents here, but I'll let Emily take it from here. And Emily, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your incredible journey?
Oh, aloha, and thank you so much for having me today. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you and to share a little bit about my journey, as you mentioned.
Yes.
My husband, John, is an Army veteran.
Okay.
He started out not as an Army veteran, actually. He started out as an elementary school teacher. And
Okay.
9/11 happened, and like many Americans at that time, it changed who he wanted to be. So shortly after 9/11, he left his teaching job as an elementary school teacher and joined the Army, where he continued to serve for the next 8 years.
Wow.
So I met him just after he returned from a second tour in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Gotcha.
At that time, it was 2007, and he had already shown signs of migraines and trauma from war and returning. But I didn't realize and recognize a lot of those symptoms and challenges at the time. I was a young new wife. I was a young mother, and he continued to serve as long as he could through the Department of Defense.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we moved to Hawaii, and we quickly realized that his injuries and some of the things that we had gone misdiagnosed really needed to be better cared for, and we learned that he actually had a traumatic brain injury and PTSD, which changed the trajectory of what our life looked like. What do you do with yourself in your late 30s with a young family at home with a diagnosis like that after you've dedicated your life to defending your nation?
Right.
There is a gap in purpose. There is a gap in mission. There is a gap in connection to your family. There is a gap in connection to your community. And all of those things need to be looked at and reconnected.
And I think for our audience, we've talked about this a couple times, but when you talk about 2007, that was some of the most major fighting that we had in Iraq. I mean, and that was just on the cusp of the Department of Defense and the VA accepting that traumatic brain injury from improvised explosive devices was actually the signature wound of the war. So when your husband was there, he was actually in that front line where that wasn't really being talked about, right, Emily?
That's correct. And at the time when he was back, we were living in DC, and he was going to the VA, and they kept telling him to try to continue to be a productive, contributing member of society as long as he could.
Yeah.
And so he would leave those doctor's appointments thinking that and feeling like it was his job to continue to be a contributing member of society without any support system around what that looked like, and maybe
Yeah.
that there was a new way forward, a new normal that needed to be like that his contributions might need to look different in the future, but that it didn't leave him without purpose or mission.
Right.
But it took a long time. It took a lot of anger and frustration on his point of working out those traumas and frustrations,
Right.
in addition to understanding what it's like to live with a brain injury and how to navigate through your new normal and find purpose after those kind of after a devastating diagnosis like that. What do you do with a brain injury?
Right.
What do you do
Right.
with that? Well, we've decided that what we're going to do with that is find a new normal, find new purpose, find new mission, and that if it can work for our family, and if we can find ways to navigate through for our family, that the same can be true for other military families out there. And that's really where the focus for our commitment to not just finding ways to survive for our own family and thrive, but also to share what we've learned with others so that they may also survive and thrive as well.
That's amazing. So you kind of packed up and you went, not even transcontinental, you went on over the Pacific. And tell us a little bit about that spectacular journey, because I want our audience to know that that's how I met you, was out there visiting that land. But I don't want to jump
You
into too.
did.
So why don't you explain, and then I'll tell everybody about that experience.
Yes, well, we started at the beginning in 2015. We had Kamehameha Schools lent us some land. We had 30 acres, and we opened our doors and we said, "Welcome, veterans and their families. We have land here. Come and grow with us."
Yeah.
And weeks went by, and we had maybe a few participants come and go,
Okay.
but there was no real connection. And what we realized is that there was no infrastructure, there was no education, and there was no network or conduit that kept us all together. And that we needed to start to find ways to bring the education, bring the infrastructure and the support needed for veterans and their families to actually thrive and survive. You can't just give land and say, "Here we are, go
Right.
and do something with it." We realize that there's more to that structure, and so that put our hats on to how we could be part of a solution. And that's when we relooked at our programs and we decided to start offering victory gardens, and we would
Love that.
bring victory gardens directly to the veteran's home. And this is nice at the beginning because there might be anxiety or concern around what this whole gardening or
Right.
agriculture adventure is going to look like. But if we can slowly introduce that on a small scale in your backyard, then the opportunity to be interested in growing more food grows. There's
Yes.
also an opportunity for when you go to the grocery store, now you're valuing that locally grown produce as opposed to maybe the big box stores where you're
Right.
not getting the same nutrition that you would in locally grown or locally sourced produce. So you're actually not just connecting them to what grows, but also how they can be better nourishing themselves in the future. So that was a beautiful place for us to start and really understand and begin to listen to what veterans and their families actually wanted.
Uh,
And soon after that, we realized that the structure and the education was really important. And so we worked with our partners at Go Farm at the University of Hawaii, and we found a way to have scholarships where veterans could go through the program, and we would support them with additional health and wellness support. We had a licensed social worker on staff and on hand that could
Amazing.
help support them with additional challenges along the way. And that happened just during COVID.
Ah,
Our first launch of that program was like the second week that COVID shut down Hawaii. But because we were an outside class,
yes.
and because there was just a few of us, and because we were working on the land in the middle of nowhere, we were able to continue to grow together, even during COVID in that time. So we were really able to engage, again, that veteran population to be part of a solution in a time where we really needed them to be a conduit of support.
And it's just so amazing to me that you picked up, and again, because of your husband, and you were kind of like, you're not from a military family, are you? So
I'm not,
you're
no.
just kind of thrown into that, and here he is back, and yet you were savvy enough to say, we need to do something together as a family, but it's your drive to bring other families through it. And you were really, kind of the tip of the spear going in there. Here's your land, enjoy, grow and prosper. And from that, you went down these different, starting with the Victory Gardens and then some of your other classes as well that you can talk about here. I mean, I was just amazed what you were able to do, not to mention the fact, Emily, that I didn't know that part of Hawaii, that Hilo area, was so overgrown. Like how you even were able to clear areas is just amazing. So tell us a little bit about that hard work.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into building and developing these programs. We also learned a lot by listening, and I think that's been one of the critical aspects of the component to why we've been able to continue to be successful is we listen and we include the community. So when we were teaching or when we were working with our partners at the university, we realized that there was a gap in the programs that were being held. Only twice a year could you go through this program. So we asked for additional USDA funds and we created our Groundwork to Grow program. And that's really what's been our foundational programming for Ho'ola Farms over the last 5 years. Groundwork to Grow is a compilation of 4-week workshops on specific topics. So greenhouse growing, master food preservers classes, livestock. There's like 20 different classes that we host. So they're on a variety of topics. So a veteran or their participating family member can participate in these 4-week classes and then continue on with the next set of classes. We might do an agribusiness development class or an agritourism development class. So all of a sudden, you've got this patchwork of classes that you've been able to take with your family in order to better support the agriculture system at large.
And again, you're learning this on the fly, and what you put together in such a short time, thousands of miles from where you were, in the middle of a pandemic, I just find absolutely amazing. And where did the Elizabeth Dole Foundation come into this? Because I do know that you are an Elizabeth Dole Fellow. And to the audience that doesn't know, I'm going to ask you all to go to the Elizabeth Dole website for caregivers of military. It's a great honor. And, I'd like you to explain a little bit to our audience what that's all about, too.
Well, at about the same time that I was founding Ho'ola with John, I realized that my voice was important and that I needed to be part of solutions. And if I could offer that was an important thing for me to be able to share. And I was contacted by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation to be one of their 2 Hawaii Dole Fellows. They have 2 fellows throughout each state. And they do a great job of representing the caregivers and then helping us to advocate for solutions. So Senator Dole really empowered me and gave me the toolkit at the very beginning to understand how to connect with our political leaders, how to advocate for what is important, and that my voice matters. And so I am forever grateful for Senator Dole and her leadership and her continued dedication to service members and their caregivers. There was just a new RAND study that came out just, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the numbers are striking. It was 5.5 million caregivers caring for service-disabled members in 2015. We're now up to 14.9 million caregivers caring for service-disabled veterans, and the toll of unpaid care that's given by us caregivers, the toll is in the billions each year. So there has to be more done to support caregivers. I'm in California now, and I drive down Wilshire and right in front of the VA, and you oftentimes see veterans out there on the street. And people are always saying, what can we do for these veterans that are on the streets? There shouldn't be any veterans on the streets. And every time I see veterans on the streets, I think about all the families that have been left behind.
Absolutely.
That wish that they could be there to support those veterans that are now on the streets. And with better support and care along the way, those families could have been there to continue to support that veteran, and they wouldn't be in the position they are now. So I think with better care for caregivers and the families all the way through the system, that we can all be stronger
Oh, absolutely.
long term.
That's kind of our tagline for Resurrecting Lives is resurrect a hero, strengthen a nation. I mean, this is,
And
you guys are
yeah,
1% of the population, and we are literally letting you go. I mean, when you're talking about getting funding, I would like our listeners to know just how incredibly difficult that is. And it's something that I believe, Emily, that the civilian population, it's not like they're apathetic. They just take it for granted that our veterans
right.
who volunteered their lives to support us are being taken care of. And they are not, as you were saying.
Yeah, so I mean, being a woman-led nonprofit has been a challenge as far as funding is concerned,
For
like you
sure.
mentioned, and we have been turned away from funding for a significant amount of funding for the basis of being veteran serving, and
I
that
know.
there's enough money out there for veterans. So we're not. I mean, that just happened to me last week
Oh,
when I asked for
tragic.
feedback on a proposal. So
Yeah.
even to get a straight answer from why or how you could do better next time, it's not always very clear, which just helps me stay focused on what it is that we need and the end goal, and that is to get healthy food into the homes and the lives of veterans and their families and the communities in which we serve. That is the end goal. And
Right.
so we just stay focused on how we're going to continue to make that happen. But I appreciate you highlighting the fact that it is a challenge,
Oh,
and
it's such a major
it's an uphill
challenge.
battle.
And,
Yeah.
and one of the reasons why I just love speaking to you, because like I'm the older generation, okay? And like I say, I mean, my voice is not going to be here someday soon, or not going to be coherently here someday soon, thanks to my brain injury. That's what I always worry about. And it's just great to know that there are people like you that do this. But here is the deal. We went to war in 2001. It's now 2024, soon to be 2025. We've almost had a quarter of a century of veterans coming back with traumatic brain injury, with post-traumatic stress disorder, with them not recognizing their families, with their families not being able to support them, or at times with veterans coming back feeling they're such a burden for the family that they
Yeah.
don't even let the family know they're back. And this point came to me very clearly. We actually started filming our documentary Operation Resurrection in LA on Thanksgiving Day in 2010. And the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans that we spoke to who were already homeless on those streets you're talking about, we were right there.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
not want us to let their families know because they were so worried that their families would be worried about them. They would rather try to survive on their own than have their families think of them as a burden. And that's one of the major things that you're doing. You're showing them you're not a burden. You're feeding your family.
That's right. That's exactly right. You're feeding your family, you're feeding your community, you
Right.
have purpose again.
Yes.
Your skills are not for naught.
Right.
They are applicable in these ways. We welcome you today. We welcome you tomorrow. We welcome you in a week
Yeah.
when you feel like you're ready to be here. We're ready for you, and we're ready to grow with you.
And you
And we're
have
ready
been
to
growing.
help find purpose.
Yes.
Yes. And let's turn that into something. Veterans, we're always talking about the hard stuff and the heavy stuff, but I also like to talk about the solutions. And that is food is a solution. And it is something that can empower them to be part of the solution. And it doesn't always come in the way of farming in the way that we see it. Also,
Right.
we have a veteran who turns the raw products that he purchases from other local farmers, and he turns it into juices and other beverages that can be sold on our farm to car market. So you don't have to be the farmer to turn that into an added value product. And that was, I'm going to kind of make a transition into our purpose driven mission as we continue to unfold our flower of programs and services, is that we realize that we can't just teach people how to grow the food.
Right.
We have to have a conduit to connect with the community or sell the goods in order to be successful. And so we now have a online farmers market called Hawaii Farm to Car Market. And you can place your orders on Friday through Monday. And then on Wednesdays, you as a customer, you just drive through and you pick up your groceries. We already have them packed and ready to go. And you can order from over 100 local farmers and producers each week on that site. And as a farmer, you can sell 20 heads of lettuce, if that's all you have, and that's the 20 heads of lettuce that you can sell, that's okay.
Yes.
And we can help you scale up that market. And guess what? If you decide you want to turn that into cabbage, then we have a commercial kitchen and refrigeration and freezer space so that you can actually come in and turn that raw product into an added value product that now increases your income. It provides shelf life and an opportunity for you to potentially ship or distribute to more wholesalers and distributors, building and growing your business. So now you've built a foundation in which you can really grow and be successful. So I didn't want to set anybody up to just say, oh yeah, just go out there and be a farmer. Good luck with that. We actually have conduits that allow for success throughout the system.
And again, this is really a large undertaking for a specialist in interior design. I just have to say how you were able to make that switch absolutely positively amazes me. And I know when Chief Paisano and I were visiting you in February after Chief Paisano delivered our Veterans Standing Together Across America flag to Honolulu. We came on over because I had been hearing about you. I heard about you at the senator's office, Senator Hirono's office in D.C. Everywhere I went, Elizabeth Dole's foundation told me. And when I went there, I was expecting something huge. And what I saw was 100,000 times more than I had even imagined, because everyone in the Hilo community who we spoke to said, you and your farm kept food on the tables during the pandemic. Tell us a little bit about how you did that.
Well, I'm proud to be part of the solution there.
Yes.
And, we were on a call one day right as COVID was hitting, and with all the major state players, the governor and all the Costco and all the big food providers and nonprofit organizations. And I realized two really important things that day. One was that no one was coming to save us. And two was that we're the ones we've been waiting for.
Oh, that again. That you said that out at Hilo at your farm, and it is so profound. Okay, nobody's coming to save us.
First, no one is coming to save us. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
But second, we're the ones we've been waiting for.
Wow.
And it allowed me to put on my solution hat and say, okay, we're it. So if this is it, what now? And beautiful things happened. We engaged with our community. We found ways that we could make those conduits where we could support the farmers collecting the goods and distributing it to consumers and continuing to keep that flowing in the midst of shutdowns everywhere else. We were able to work with county officials and other organizations to make sure that we had the food that we needed to fill in the gaps and build a better, more resilient system. We don't want to be just sustainable. I think that is a word that is insufficient for today's needs.
Okay. What word do you prefer?
We need to be resilient. Okay. We need to be able to pivot and be resilient.
Okay.
And sustainable means that we can sustain what we currently have, but we know we are growing and changing. We have climate change. We have these considerations all the time. In Hawaii, we have shipping challenges. We have weather concerns. We have all these different challenges. And really, Hawaii is just a little close examination of the system at a bigger whole. So I really feel a privilege in seeing it from the Hawaii perspective because it helps me understand the system as a whole. But being able to know that we're part of a solution allowed me to engage in ways and take risks in ways and ask for help in ways and engage in ways that maybe I would have sat on the sidelines before. The only thing I can compare it to is really understanding and learning that I am a caregiver and for my husband, John, which is different than being a wife, which is different than being a mother.
Yes.
When I'm a caregiver, I have to put on that hat and it's serious and it means business. And I have to take myself seriously and everyone else does too. And so I think that there's times where you have to step into those moments and know that the time is now and you're going to either be part of the solution or not. And so it was empowering for me. It's something that allowed me to step into who I wanted to become. And we haven't looked back since.
And you are, Emily, bringing together a nation. I mean, I don't know whether you can sense that as much as I sense that when I talk to our veterans, perhaps like when I get veterans who are desperate and don't know what to do, I have them go to your website, take a look at what is out there, what is going on. And you started all of this in Hawaii, including buying a food kitchen. Like in the midst of the pandemic, you bought something that was gonna be falling apart and turned it into. If you could explain that to our audience, because that's a whole business itself.
Well, I tried to find sustainable models so that our organization could thrive beyond just grants and that kind of thing. And so both the farm to car market and our Hilo Food Hub are both small generators that allow us to continue to pay staff and keep the doors open, which has allowed us to continue to thrive, I believe. This commercial kitchen, similarly to the farm to car program, it had a year's worth of grant funding and then was going to be closing down just because of challenges and different needs that the original owner had. So we stepped in with funding from a kind funder. We're able to purchase that commercial kitchen equipment and keep that commercial kitchen going, which means that we support 35 local businesses each month who use our commercial kitchen space and turn that into added value products. Some turn it into feeding for charter schools and other things. Some turn it into meat processing. So that's what
fascinated me. That part, and that's all. When you said, and this had to be separate, and you not only did that, but you went through all the rules and regulations of FDA.
Exactly. Well, and so it empowers us to now have the knowledge to walk through veterans and their families along with the community, because these support services are available for everyone within our community, because that's really how we lift everyone up, is to include everyone. So you can really start to grow a business with us as well. And then we also teach the added value development classes. We have the agribusiness classes.
Amazing.
So you're also learning how to do your taxes. We're really trying to set you up so that you can be successful on your own. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. You're asking, where does all this come from? But I love to watch people grow. I love to see them grow in ways that I couldn't have even imagined. And that is my favorite part about all that we do at Ho'ola, is that we're not the ones dictating what is coming next. Those are the farmers are doing that. That's coming from innovation. That's coming from networks and collaboration within the community that we've built the foundation for, but the community has contributed, and that's why it's working so well.
You've also united the community around it, and to the points of our veterans and their families, our veterans are some of the best negotiators, we have. Some of the things they've had to negotiate while they've been in combat, or even when you're in boot camp and you're, negotiating your space, your role within that battalion or within that group. I think it just shows amazing skills. And if you could explain to our audience what your name stands for.
Yes, so Ho'ola means healing and rejuvenation in Hawaii. In Hawaiian. And we felt that was fitting for what we were trying to do. We're not trying to fix anyone. We're not trying to grow a leg back or grow a brain back. What we're trying to do is find a new normal and help folks navigate and thrive in that new normal. And what does that look like? And the lessons that we're learning through our veteran family and population can be translated to anyone in the civilian world. I feel so fortunate to have the communication skills that I have, because I've been forced to do that with my husband, who we've had to navigate through so many challenging things. So I think a lot of what the resilience and the know-how and the understanding that we have is more human resilience than anything else, but we've just been forced to see it through the veteran lens. But I feel so grateful too. And I really hope that I can be a conduit for both veteran and military families, but also those who aren't, in
Yes.
connecting and finding ways to be part of the solution. Because I did not ever put on a uniform. I don't know what it's like to serve. But I know what it's like to stand next to someone who has, and to
Yeah.
be part of that foundation that that he wouldn't be able to do what he did without me being here doing what I did. And I
Right.
know that. And so we know that we're stronger together. And so I think that that's something that has been a conduit that's helped me grow and thrive as well, and why I think that it's translatable for others as well.
Uh,
They don't have to be military.
Right. It's true. And you're kind of bringing the civilian, I mean, you're really helping bridge that 99% population civilian, 1% veteran in such a big way. And I was drawn to you, of course, with it being the Resurrecting Lives Foundation. We were on kind of a same pathway there. And my idea
Yeah.
for when people say, where did you come up with that name? I said, well, you really literally need to bring back to life that brain, that brain that has been numb, that has been disconnected, that has been blasted, that has been exposed to horrific things. You really need to bring it back to what you state is, the new normal. So I love that philosophy. And then, so you were over in Hawaii for how many years before?
10 years.
10 years. And now tell us about your expansion of your
So
as if you can.
So Ho'ola is thriving, and it's doing wonderful work in Hawaii. And I go back and forth often,
I know.
including visiting my miniature donkeys
Yeah,
that you
yes.
met while you were there.
Yes, I
My
did.
favorite part.
They were darling.
Um, but we also realize that there's more work to be done, and that there are collaborations and there's support needed on a national level for this work that we're doing. And so we're now here in Southern California, in LA County, where there's
Okay.
over 200,000 veterans, the most veterans of any county in the US.
Right.
And we're here to be part of the solution. We realize that it's been a pretty challenging last few years here with within the VA and land challenges. And we just think that growing food and having a place to come together
Yeah.
and have fellowship and connection and a place that's welcoming is really, really important. And so we're here to hold space to develop new opportunities for veterans and their families to be able to do that.
And that's amazing. When I first got into this again, we started filming in LA, and I knew very little. I would say I knew nothing about the veteran population or really about what was going on with the blessed. I just knew it was happening. But we were told that on any one night in the United States, there are more homeless veterans between LA and San Diego out at night than any other place in the nation. And I've had more calloused people mention, well, at least they're in good weather. I go, you don't know what it's like to go lay on the ground in the summertime in Ohio, or stay there during a storm, or see what it's like when you're trying to find a place to either find food or to even get cleaned off or to do anything. It's absolutely a tragedy, and I find it one of the worst tragedies in our country that we're not taking care of those who volunteered their lives to take care of us.
Yeah. I have to share another quick story. As we were
Please.
driving to the VA for John had an appointment the other day, and there was a veteran standing in the street, and he had a sign that said, we'll work for help, just need help. And
Wow.
I said to John, like, I wonder what he remembers growing in his garden. Like, I wonder what his grandma grew in her garden.
Yeah.
I wonder if we asked him, I wonder what he would tell us his favorite thing was to grow. And if we had a place where veterans like that could have a place to come and say, let's grow together something that you remember from your past. Let's grow something that brings you back to what can you make? What is, show me who you are through food.
Oh, that's an amazing idea. Yes.
Give them the opportunity to have that space to do that. And I believe we're going to see a lot of veterans thrive in that way. I think that there's a lot of connection, mental health connection. There's a lot of support and conduit that goes into being able to get back on the land, get into the soil, watch that thing that you're nourishing grow and turn into something that has value.
Yeah.
and nourishment, and watch what that does to the individual. There's very few things in life that you can witness the transformation in such a powerful way.
Right, absolutely. And I think I had mentioned to you that years ago, back in about 2014, 2015, we had one of our veterans, just an amazing young man, Matt Gossard, who went out there to the West Hollywood VA. And actually, there were gardens at that time, I believe, sponsored by the Annenberg Foundation, I believe. And let me tell you, I was going out like I saw him when he kind of got dropped off. You know what I mean? He kind of dropped himself off there. Within 6 weeks, he started with this garden. 3 months later, I hardly recognized him. This poor young man who had been so devastated by his wounds of war that he was, 6'2" or whatever and about 180 pounds. And that's really thin on a previously muscular, airborne 82nd. You know what I mean? And he started, and then he did like your veteran and that started making the things for juicing. And then he got together everybody that was kind of on the property. Every Wednesday night was juicing night, and they would bring different things, the carrot juice, the spinach juice. I tried the grass juice. I got to tell you, a little bit tough, but it was an amazing opportunity, to your point. So I really hope, what would you like to ask of our audience? Because one of the things that I'd mentioned to you, 2025, and our audience knows this, and we're going to really call on them to help out here. We are going to DC again. We've got to put an end to all of this people running for office and not running the country. We've got to get back together and get things like this initiated. Let's start picking up the pieces of our veterans and their families. Let's start doing things. So what would you like them to do, both now, and you're going to be with us in the future too. So, what do you see in the forefront that we can do to help bring a lot of your dreams and a lot of what you're doing to a larger scale?
Yeah, I think well, first of all, you can be part of the solution by continuing to support and listen to podcasts like this and understand the deeper challenges that veterans and their families face. So I think this is a great place to start. You can donate to programs like Hoola Farms.
Yes,
you can go to hoolafarms.org and donate on our website. You can be part of the solution in working with politicians that are supporting agriculture and supporting local agriculture. We're at a fight for the forefront of our whole food system right now.
Right, exactly.
So anything you can be doing to be aware and be a part of that. Anytime you can, as a consumer, go to the grocery store, this is bare bones. Anytime you can go to the grocery store and buy something local that says locally grown, that means that you're supporting part of the food system. You're saying, Safeway, buy that locally grown product next time. Don't buy that, stuff that was shipped from wherever that we don't even know when it was harvested or where it came from or what was sprayed on it.
Right.
So everyone, and our dollar is our number one way of advocating for change. And so every time you can do that, there's Homegrown by Heroes labels that are on a lot of labels throughout the United States. So you can see that that product was grown by a veteran farmer, and that brand is growing all the time.
And I think that this is a
be present,
nonpartisan issue as far as I'm concerned.
100%. So, that's the joy of all of this.
Exactly.
That is the beauty, is every single person can benefit from us thriving here. We need 1 million new farmers. We needed 1 million new farmers 10 years ago. With the current food that we were growing needs 10 years ago. We need 1 million new farmers now. Where are we growing those farmers? How are we supporting those farmers? How are we advocating for those farmers? We can all be part of the system of the solution in supporting small scale farmers in growing.
Emily, again, what you're doing is just amazing to me. And I told you from the moment I met you, we are here to support you 100%. So anybody in our network, please go and take a look at what Emily's doing. Please think of what you can do to support her and her efforts, because her efforts are our efforts. Her efforts are bringing us all together to make us a stronger community, a stronger state, a stronger nation. And there is no time like now that has been more necessary. I look forward to future conversations like this, okay? I really look forward to going back out there and visiting you. As I told Emily when I was there, it was in February. I said, do you want me to hold down this farm in February? Because February in Ohio, this beautiful Sycamore Studios is under snow. Under ice, becomes a different kind of beautiful that my body doesn't appreciate so much, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So I think
you're always welcome.
Oh, well, we really appreciate that. We will be seeing you. Please keep us informed on your progress as well. And we have parts, under our events and on our website where we connect them to you and to what you're doing. And I think, again, our audience, pay attention, because in 2025, as soon as everything gets, everybody gets sworn in, everything gets settled down, March is National Traumatic Brain Injury Awareness Month. We're going to come in big. And by we, I mean we, the United States of America, are going to come in big and say, we have an obligation to our veterans and their families. We have an obligation to listen to people like you who have come up with great solutions. And we have an obligation to bring them back to a future that is productive for them and therefore productive for us. So everybody, when you're sitting around your table at Thanksgiving, I want you to bring this up. I want somebody there to take out their iPhone or their Android and look up Emily's Farm and look and see what they're doing there. And then really give thanks for everything that you have on your table, and vow that next year there's going to be a couple things there more that come from local farming, thanks to what she's taught us today. Okay?
Thank you. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Happy Thanksgiving. Take care. Bye-bye.
If you are thinking about harming yourself or attempting suicide, tell someone who can help right away. Call 911 for emergency services. Go to the nearest hospital emergency room. Call or text 988 to connect with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. This podcast is made possible thanks to a grant from the Overwatch Alliance, and it's produced by the Resurrecting Lives Foundation at the Sycamore Studio. Music is written, performed, and graciously provided by Tim Beckley. Remember, when you work toward brain injury recovery, it is best to journey with a friend and keep your gait steady and your spirit strong. Finally, always seek shelter from your storms.